Got everybody, John? Okay, we got two online. That's a do it. Call today's meeting to order. Jen, will you do roll call, please?
Tom McDonald,
Here.
Jennifer Finley, Jim Molitor,
Here.
Carol Langford, Len Tootie, Bing Matt,
Here.
Ellie Bundy. Present. Mark Charlo.
Present.
Mike Dolson.
I'm here.
I'm here too. I'm not sure if you called my name.
Yes, I did. Thank you, Jennifer.
All right. Thank you, Jim. Mike, would you mind starting us out with a prayer this morning?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Creator, in your all-knowing, all-powerful, and all-loving way, bless us as we do the work of our tribe today. Bring blessings to everybody in terms of their own intentions. Keep those who have lost folks in the last month or so in your heart. Lift them up, give them peace. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, we have meeting minutes from September 6th. For your consideration.
Hey, good morning.
Sure. Go ahead, Bing.
On page 2, I suggested that first we get a hold of Vernon. Can we add Stearns to behind his name, his last name?
Okay, thank you, Bing.
Yeah.
Chairman, motion to approve the September 6th minutes with corrections.
Motion by Len to approve the September 6th council minutes with corrections. Second by Mike. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, show of hands. 8-4, and I will abstain since I wasn't at the meeting. Okay, we have our agenda today. We our walk-in we were able to take care of. So is there any other additions or changes to the agenda? I have some updates and want to make sure we have quorums for the next few weeks. I'll run through that, but other than that, any other updates or changes to the agenda? Okay, Jimmy?
Yeah, I just want to mention that Harvest Fest they had in Harley last night. It was really well attended. There's travel health staff did a good job. Ellen Bigson, and the rest of them. It was really, really cool because the kids had a lot to do, you know, a lot of things for kids, a lot of things to give away, and I really enjoyed it. I was only down there for a little while, but it was really nice to see the kids have that activity. So I appreciate it. And I want to thank them for their effort, and they're doing it every week, I guess, in different communities. So be good to go if we could. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. So an email came out yesterday acknowledging that a meeting with the Lake County Commissioners about the solid waste issues is coming up. As we move forward with this, and it appears that they are going to start implementing the $180 fee. I would like us to seriously take a look at allocating funding that we could pay for the elders. If we need to pay this fee, I would like to see the tribes pay that for the elders. So just wanted to mention that, keep that in your mind, and we can, you guys come up with some ideas on how we can do that. Let's think about it. So wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Go ahead, Carol.
Yeah, thank you, Lynn, for bringing that up. I was talking to an individual who is on Medicaid and pays property tax. And she said that, you know, people that are disabled or elderly can apply for reduction in taxes. I don't know if anybody knows that, but she did, and she got an 80% reduction in her property tax. And I'm wondering within that rule, I wonder if there's something that elders can apply for a reduction in cost of something like waste disposal. I don't know. I just thinking outside of the box on what might be able to help elders, but a lot of them don't pay property tax, but I'm just thinking there should be a clause in there that might allow them to apply for a reduction. So. And we might want to keep that on the top of our mind, or let the elders program know that that's available out there. I didn't know that you could get reduction in taxes. This person got 80% reduction.
That's good to know for people. We should let them know that. This particular item is a fee and not a tax. So I'm not sure the mechanism for them to collect the fee is through the property tax paperwork, but that doesn't mean that there may be the same thing for fees. But really appreciate Len bringing up the need for our elders, and if there's a way we can assist elders with this.
Is the irrigation, you know, that they've decided not to collect, is that a tax, or is that just a fee that they apply to the tax bill?
It's a fee.
So if they can do that, why can't they?
Well, they are. I mean, it's not a tax though. That's why they can opt out of it.
Why don't they do the irrigation? I mean, it's just what's the argument? I mean, I thought they weren't gonna do irrigation, collect
Their
anymore.
difficulty that they have, and I remember when Ellie and I met with the two of them, it was that they don't have any recourse if someone doesn't pay the fee. And then also they don't have the way they structure their funding, they don't have like this account that they can reimburse people with. And so when that happens, there's a mistake then, or change of hands and stuff. There's no way for them to remit money back to the individual who paid the irrigation fee. So they have some legitimate concerns. That's what my understanding that you heard, Ellie. That's what I heard.
Mr. Chair.
Talk to you about, oh, go ahead, Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and SQX Council. Instead of paying the $180 fee or that fee, why wouldn't we look into getting garbage service for our elders? I feel like that'd be more beneficial I don't feel like our elders are making a lot of trips to the dumps. And having the garbage service right outside their houses, I think would be very beneficial for them and more effective. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Good point. Is that it is a difficulty simply going to the dump for a lot of elders. And so a lot of them, they have to look for someone else to assist them to get their garbage out, or they have to go ahead and contract with the garbage service agency, if they provide that service in their area. Some people, they just don't provide it. So I think it's worthy of exploring, and definitely something that needs to be part of our basic services and looking out for our membership. Go ahead, Bing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On that note that Martin just brought up, I was talking to an individual of RE, and he was doing that, getting garbage. I had a, getting garbage picked up outside his house, and he said he was paying around $700 a year to do that, and $180 is far less than the $700 that he was paying. And he said that he was going to go ahead and pay the $180, and he's building a trailer and whatnot, and he's going to haul other people's garbage. But if it's that cost that much more, I don't know what type of receptacle he was talking about, but $700 is a lot of money to have to pay for those garbage cans, that they have. So I think a guy would have to check and see how much those cost a month before he looks into going to do that, pay that much money for garbage cans.
I know I have a big one. My big one's about that much. One of the issues about garbage collection is our carbon footprint, and then recycling and all those things that go into it. So first measure we want to endorse and try to do with our membership in the communities is to reduce the amount of garbage we're generating, first of all, and then utilize renewables as much as possible. And then the trips, the miles traveled by depending on the vehicle, to and fro the garbage collection site, that needs to be reduced. So if everybody's doing it individually, that's not a method that you want to support for climate change. The more you can do, whether it's someone in their neighborhood that does it for everybody, or it's a garbage collection service that's more efficient, and we're putting less carbon in the environment, assuming that the truck or the vehicle is a combustible engine. So those are all things that's kind of the coarse filter that I would encourage us. We always look at. The most desirable thing is to reduce individual waste as much as possible. Encourage people not to buy plastics, and we're just reduce and try to recycle, try to have their own, garden and mulching and whatever they can with some of their waste products. The electric garbage truck, which they have. They do exist.
Problem solved.
Yes, but I think it's all a bigger program, and I would add that to Len's, desire to have us look into it and how we can be effective and make a difference in everybody's life on their own economy, their budget, but also how we're planning for 7 generations ahead. If the agenda looks okay for everybody, we can approve the agenda, and I want to just review our schedules real quick for the next couple of weeks. Motion by Mike to approve today's agenda with any changes. Second by Bing. All those in favor, show of hands. Unanimous. Okay, so we have some stuff coming up. I want to make sure for next week we're looking pretty good. We have the Charles M. Russell Refuge Restoration of Buffalo field trip next week, and I think Bing is heading over on Tuesday. But Tuesday we have Electrify Montana workshop in Missoula. So their council will not have a session on Tuesday, but everybody is, I think, registered. to go in if they want to the Electrify Montana workshop. There's presentations and then there's exhibits. Go ahead, Jen.
The only one that didn't get registered was Two Teeth. So I don't know if Bing isn't going, I can change his ticket for Two Teeth. for
There's no way
Tuesday.
Bing can go, so yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
So then we would have council on Thursday next week and Bing would be gone. Didn't know if there was anybody else missing next Thursday or not. Not sure, Martin, what your schedule was next Thursday.
I should be there. They are doing a planning committee for the post and poll site with Mary Rose. That's actually, I'm gonna have to talk to them. The schedule that they have is basically all week. It's 4 days. I think they could condense that. So if anything, I'll just kind of bow out of the Thursday to make quorum for, be in council Thursday. So thank you.
Okay, well, the reason I asked is Jimmy's been interested, like many of us, in the Buffalo restoration, and he expressed a desire to go over to the CMR also, which that means we'd have 2 council members on a field trip on Thursday. We'd still have a quorum if everybody else was available. Does that sound good? You want to go, Jimmy? Okay. All right, takes care of that. Yes, the following week we have AT&I and Len and I are the delegates. Len's gonna go. I know Jennifer, when we were doing committee assignments, had an interest in it, but I don't know if you still do or not. But I was gonna hit you if Len couldn't go, and we would have to do a resolution and having you as our representative. But with that, we have Len, and it is available by Zoom. We can participate if we need to during those days. So that'll be gone the following week, 18th through the 22nd. On the 21st, there's a dog ordinance shelter management group meeting, I believe here. 1 o'clock. On the 22nd, I have a panel I have to do at lunchtime during our council for rich people given to Native American tribes. It's basically nonprofits, et cetera. It's a workshop, which reminds me of another scheduling item. And I sent this to Jen. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, Jen, but the folks that are the billionaires that bought all the Plum Creek land north of Lozo, all the way up to Kyla, kind of all the way over to Lake Mary Ronan. They made the largest contribution in the history of the state to a college or university. They gave $100 million to the MSU nursing program. They want to meet with us. They want to come as a neighbor, meet with council. They want to follow up to make sure some of their money made it to SKC nursing program, which I haven't got a response from President Boham yet. But it's a good opportunity to express being a good neighbor, let them know about us, that kind of thing. So they'd like to meet with us this month. If that doesn't work out next month, they sent some dates. I forwarded it on to Jen to see if that meets anything. But my idea was to have them here in the afternoon, sometime after lunch, have an hour presentation. We could have presentations by some staff, some of our needs, that kind of thing, how we could cooperate as adjacent landowner, talk about what's on their landscape that they just bought. We have lots of things up there. And just talk about that, make sure that we have that covered. Maybe Vernon could come in and Steve Arca or some folks like that come in and talk a little bit, do a presentation on our people and history. But also, then maybe take them on a field trip. Take them over to the college, see the nursing program. If the money hasn't come through, then certainly they're going to give us some money. They're going to give the college some money. But there could be some other unmet needs we have for communities that we want to. That's the same thing. I want to focus on these local billionaires, whether it's Linda Pitzker, it's the Joneses, whoever it might be that, we're here. And that's part of this workshop I'm doing on the 22nd is talking about that, how we can entice, because giving to Native American tribes that type of thing is really, it's just barely on the radar in the country. When you talk about how much money is being given to organizations and entities and causes, it's not even it's just a blip. So there's huge room for growth. And we don't want to be stereotyped by some rich casino tribe. Anyway, if council's okay with that, we'll try to schedule that. Jen, you have that, right? And it'd be good to meet the Joneses. They're from Texas and Canada. So they're an interesting couple.
Right, the money spent the same.
It's green like all the other dollars. The next week is in Wenatchee is the Transboundary Mining Conference being hosted for 26th and 27th. I pre-registered for that already. It's free to register. I would love to go to that. And it's a follow-up on our Kootenai River mining issues. It's a collective of the Washington, Idaho, Montana tribes, anything that we share in the Columbia River Basin that way. So it's kind of focused on the Kootenai River. And then I would encourage, anybody that wants to go to that, a follow-up to that in early next month in October 5th and 6th. And Mike probably is well aware of this one. It just came out, maybe not. It's it's by our Columbia River Treaty Negotiators sent out the invitation. It's basically the Columbia River Basin Ecosystem and Tribal Values workshop. It'll be just in Spokane. And that really will revisit the whole Columbia River Treaty obligation that's expiring here in the next few years. And I would love to go to that. I think Mike is already on board to go to that. And we might want to bring some staff with us to that one. I know, but I'm going to call them up and find out if we can't. Otherwise, it might be just Mike and I going to it. It's on October 5th and 6th. The 26th and 27th is open to everybody in Wenatchee. And that's, a lot of that stuff can be covered then too, I would think. Yep, that's the mining, specifically to mining, but it's all interconnected. Yeah. We have a date for the commissioners for the afternoon of the 20th. Is that right? Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, go ahead. Ellen.
I guess as far as my calendar, the only time I would be away is for the chairs meeting on the 19th. I'll be doing a presentation to the Mountain Line staff in Missoula on MMIP.
You think, Ellen?
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, go ahead, Martin.
looking at my calendar for next Thursday, there is a Castro Huerta decision, I think a roundtable next Thursday. I believe that is from it's late afternoon, so 2 to 5:30 our time. So if the afternoon could be a little lighter without action items, maybe that would be, because I would like to step out. I don't have to, but I think this is pretty important for us. This is the Indian child welfare decision.
Thank you, Martin. We'll make sure Jen can, she tries to do that anyway for the afternoon sessions. So that you're correct. It's an important info discussion Zoom meeting. Go ahead, Carol.
I just want to say, I don't see anything on my calendar that I would be away for September.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Len.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On September 28th and 29th, the Kiskanook are going to be hosting the annual General Assembly. The annual General Assembly is all of the Kootenai bands get together, and they have a two-day workshop, and that'll be taking place in I think in Grassmere, and I'll be attending that.
Thank you, Len. That's all I have. But your calendars are good. You're looking good, Jen. Got it figured? All right. Okay, let's go into our agenda. First item. Tammy Matt, Patty Hibbler. Good morning. Got good news for us, right? Everybody's already had COVID, so it's over. Okay, raise your hands if you haven't had COVID yet. Yeah, haven't. Have not had it yet.
So in the little packet of information, right now our case numbers are down as far as COVID goes. A lot of that we figure is just people not reporting. We have moved away from doing case investigation for everybody across the board, which has really made things a little bit easier for us. We focus more on those in congregate settings, so nursing homes, jails, schools, and those elders who are at high risk. Those are the ones that we're doing that still pretty intensive follow-up on. Right now, we have a total between county and tribe, we have 20 open active cases and 1 current hospitalization on the county side. We have had a total of 7,964 cases from the time this whole thing started, going on 3 years. So, and a total of 106 deaths. We have had 39 total deaths on the tribal side. Of those, I gotta look at my last IHS report. 39 or 37 of those have been CSKT, either tribal members or descendants. One of those was from Navajo and one was tribe that was not designated. So we have lost a lot of people to COVID here. We on the tribal side have had a total of 111 hospitalizations, and county quit counting on their side. So we've seen a decrease in hospitalizations with Omicron variant. And that is 100% what's circulating right now is Omicron. And so we just received the Omicron specific bivalent vaccine from Pfizer and Moderna. And so we will be rolling that out. The CDC, the ACIP, and the FDA all did approve those. The timeline is 2 months after your last dose. So the bivalent cannot be given if you've not received COVID vaccine before. You still have to use the monovalent vaccine for the original strain. But then when you reach your booster, then you'll get the one that has the Omicron specific in it. So we're hopeful that will help us really kind of slow things down a little bit.
When you say you roll it out, when is that date wise?
The recommendation was to pair it up with our mass flu events, and those start in a couple of weeks. So that is our plan. We will have it available though at the pharmacies, and then our weekly Wednesday clinic in Ronan, it will be available if people want it before. But our vaccine coordinator is actually out of state right now. And so she gets back on Monday, and then we'll have a meeting and work on figuring out dates, and then we'll get those advertised and published. But we will for sure have that available at all of our mass flu events that will be going on. So let's see. So that's kind of where we are in the world of COVID. I did ask Patricia and Joe to send out a reminder to employees I have been getting a lot of really nasty phone calls from employees and supervisors about COVID leave letters. And so just wanting to remind everybody that in order for us to verify that they have a positive home test, they need to complete the reporting forms that are on the tribal health website. And then we have our public health office administrative assistant that checks our drop form list every day and then issues those letters based on that. And I had several people in the last couple of weeks that have refused to do the forms, and then wanted their letter, and then got their supervisors involved, and so it was not nice. But just to remind people that those forms are very important. One, it cuts down on the amount of paperwork that I have to do in entering in the computer. And also then it's our way of tracking and knowing who it has positive home tests. So those are very important. That's for you, Patty.
Just one question regarding COVID leave. Maybe Patty, is there a recommendation to modify that or change it in the future or discontinue it or anything?
Well, our current COVID leave continues. I'm not sure if it's the end of the calendar year or fiscal year. Calendar year. Yeah, I am not feeling that we need to change it at this point. I think we'll kind of watch the numbers and see what that looks like and be able to make a recommendation in October or November.
Yeah, and with CDC changing their requirements now for isolation and cutting that down to 5 days, people have been able to kind of use part of that, and then if they are exposed again or have family members or something they need to stay home with, they do have that ability to use those hours. It has been very beneficial, and I do thank council for approving that for a lot of people, especially when we were in the crazy Delta surge and people were getting very, very sick and were sick for a very long time. People were using up all of their leave and having to stay home with their family members with quarantine. And CDC did make that change as well, that they are no longer recommending quarantine for close contacts. And so, we have seen a decrease in people asking for letters for quarantine. We do still grant the letters if they have a child that they have nobody else at home that can stay home with them, we will, approve their COVID leave for that. But and the quarantine was lifted. The changes were that they just need to mask for 10 days. They're able to be at work as long as they don't have symptoms and they wear a securely fitting mask. So
Go ahead, Len.
Patty, have we had any employees that went leave without pay under this policy?
Not that I'm aware of, within my 7 departments anyway.
Okay.
I can follow up and see if that may have happened across the board.
If you can.
But I doubt it happened very often because we do know that with leave sharing, some individuals were carried through when they had, 1 or 2 children that ended up having COVID.
Yeah, I think we had one case in one of the departments where they had children that were
Yes.
being infected and could not access the COVID leave. So
Yeah, I will follow up on that. The good thing is we're at low now, right? So we've moved to low and we're really happy to see that. What's yet to see what happens over the winter months is still yet to tell. CDC has learned a lot about COVID and thus the new guidelines that Tammy's talking about today. And that's a good thing.
yeah, and when we anticipate COVID is going to just be here like the flu is here. And we anticipate that they'll kind of even change and modify recommendations further, more like the flu, so that then we just follow up on those that are hospitalized or, do investigations if there's a death. It's just one of those things that we figure you'll get your COVID booster when you get your flu shot. So,
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, I just want to acknowledge Tammy, and the work that you've done since COVID broke out here. I know for a fact that you went above and beyond your call of duty during that time. And our tribe is so fortunate to have you. You need to hear that,
Thank you.
because I've seen the work that you were doing and the people that you helped. And I know that during that time, there were a lot of people that were upset, a lot of people that did not know what was happening, the uncertainty of things and how they were responsive. I just want to thank you for the work that you have done,
Thank you.
and you just need to hear that. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I
You're here,
appreciate
Lynn.
that.
That's good.
Mhm.
Absolutely. It's very
Mm.
appreciative.
Thank you. So shifting gears to the world of monkeypox. So we have a total of 5 positive confirmed cases in the state of Montana. Well, they're still considered probable because we're waiting CDC's final confirmation, and that's taking about 3 weeks to get those. But right now we have identified 5 cases in Montana in 4 different counties. So Lake, Gallatin, Flathead, and Hill County all have positive cases. Our case here in Lake County was in an adult. They had no identified high-risk close contacts, but we are monitoring several of their family members that, just because we don't know 100%, whether they were around each other during that initial infectious period. What we do know about monkeypox is that it is highly contagious if you are touching the rash. It spreads very easily if you are in contact with the rash, but that people are not able to spread it before they develop symptoms. And so, different from COVID, where COVID, we were tracking anybody that they may have been exposed to in the 48 to 72 hours before their symptoms started. With monkeypox, they're not able to spread that to anybody else until their symptoms develop. What we are seeing is that they present usually with flu-like symptoms, so fever, body aches, headache, and about 4 to 5 days after those flu-like symptoms, then the rash appears. And the rash is described as very, very painful. It reminds me a lot of a smallpox rash, if you've seen those. I do have a couple of pictures of this.
Tammy, quick question.
Yeah.
How about indirect contact, like using doorknobs or?
So there is a slight chance, especially if they have if the rash is on their hands and they're touching that, there is that risk of transmission that way. It is a hardy virus. It does live on hard surfaces for, about 2 weeks. And so, doing some pretty intensive cleaning. We do know, we've got some powerful cleaners that we use in the clinics to disinfect, but the Lysol wipes are pretty effective against that. And so I just remind people, like, if you're in the grocery store, wiping down the shopping cart,
Yeah.
Before you touch that, because most people, what we have found is that, they're very sick and this rash spreads over their body that they're not going anywhere. And so, that risk is low, but we don't know, if they present, we're getting into flu season. So flu presents with the same symptoms, COVID presents with the same symptoms, and monkeypox presents with all the flu-like symptoms. So, getting our medical staff geared up to, look at their past history and, ruling out COVID, ruling out flu before, they are letting them kind of leave. It's one, I don't, our initial case is doing well. They're healing pretty well. They are considered infectious until the scabs have completely healed and new skin has grown over all of the scabs. So they are in isolation away from everybody until that new skin covers all of the rash.
So their close associates, are they vaccinated?
What's up?
Do the close associates to that person get vaccinated?
Yes, yeah, anybody that's identified as high risk close contact to them will receive vaccination. They have the highest priority, and the state does have vaccines set aside for that group.
Do you have vaccines or is just the state?
We don't. We don't here in Lake County. We do have access to vaccine supply in Missoula County and Flathead County. And there is a group of, three groups that are eligible, and those are those high-risk close contacts, those who are sex workers, and those who engage in high-risk anonymous sexual behavior and have multiple partners in a 2 to 3 week period. They can call either Missoula County or Flathead County and get an appointment to get vaccinated. So, and Patty was just asking about the length of time for the rash. It can be upwards to about 4 weeks. And so our individual that we did have as positive, looking at, they did ask, about, and it was one of the things we had talked about actually within our public health meetings is, we do have like the COVID leave that covers that extended amount of time period for people to be off. But with monkeypox, they could potentially be in isolation for a month or longer until that heals. And, not knowing the leave status of people, it's not something that we're going to see as a huge outbreak, I don't think, in our community. But, for those individuals trying to figure out, they don't want, there's a lot of stigma around monkeypox and just the way that the CDC originally presented that out as quote, men who have sex with men are the only ones going to get that. And that is absolutely not true.
Go ahead, Len.
Tammy, do you know, is there going to be any programs here in the future where this vaccine is going to be distributed to the tribes?
The state did say if we have, if we have a case and identify enough close contacts that they will mobilize vaccine to us. But because the stability of the vaccine it's not very hardy. Once you open the vial of vaccine, you have 8 hours to use the 5 doses that are in it. And so right now, they have it just in the larger counties. And so right now, if we have identified anybody who qualifies for that, then they will need to go to either Missoula County or Flathead County to receive that.
All right, thank you.
But, but they will mobilize to us if, we start seeing an increase in cases here. So, let's see. In your packet, I did include just kind of the infographic that we put together that's out on our webpage. That gives just real basic general information, trying to curb some of the misinformation that's out. I've heard a lot of, crazy things, don't go to the docks at Riverside because you're going to get monkeypox. But it's like, no, that's swimmer's itch, which, is a bumpy rash, but it's not monkeypox. We also see, back to school time, we see hand, foot, and mouth disease, which causes a similar looking rash on the soles of the feet and the palms of the hands on the kiddos. And so just doing a lot of education with our providers to, just because it's a rash, it may not be monkeypox. And the state did put together a nice questionnaire for our providers to go down and to help them identify those that may need to be tested for monkeypox.
Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tammy, can monkeypox be transmitted through water, like in a hot tub or something of that sort?
Not that we are aware. It can be spread if you're in close quarters with somebody for 3 hours within 6 feet. There's a risk of transmission. It can be spread through the air that way. It's not not like sharing items or touching the actual rash. It can be spread though, like if you come in contact with their clothes or their bedding, then it can be transferred onto you and then you can get it that way. So we've spent a lot of time working with our housekeeping staff in the clinics to make sure that they're aware of, those potential risks. And I did go through last week and get everybody tested and on their PPE, putting it on and taking it off properly so that we don't have any breach in that so that we minimize transmission risk. And so just some of the things, we talk about, preventing, making sure not engaging in anonymous sexual partners, not sharing blankets or, clothing or anything like that with people who have a rash. If you do have a rash, please call your provider, schedule an appointment with them. We are asking people to call in so that our clinics are prepared, much like we did with COVID in the beginning, so that we can have them not sitting in our waiting room to minimize the risk and having to decontaminate the waiting room and the chairs. So we are asking people to call ahead, and that, they will be seen. Our individual that we had was screened actually and seen at St. Luke's. And so they were a little more prepared than our tribal health facilities when they were very, short-staffed and full appointments. And it takes a lot to, once you're in with the patient, you're in with them until you're done, and then you have to decontaminate. So they opted to have them go to St. Luke's. So let's see. So I can pass this around and you guys can kind of look at them.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
Yeah, I have a question, Tammy. Thank you for this information. This is really helpful because I wasn't really sure what monkeypox was. So this makes it really clear and simple.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
My question is, has Tribal Health reached out to SNK Gaming with suggestions about additional protocol that they might want to implement because of monkeypox? I'm just thinking if someone's sitting in a chair for hours, their skin is on a seat. And then I don't know if this is still true in hotels, but hotels are only legally required to change the sheets every day, but the top bed cover is only required to be changed once a week. Is that still true?
Yes. Yeah. And so that's, taking a little, we have to take little baby steps to make a lot of these changes. I have not had a meeting with SNK yet, but I will definitely, talk with them and, talk with Quatechnik as well. We do have it in our communities. Like I said, it's, we didn't identify any other close contacts. And right now it seems to be just one individual case. And, it's not spreading like it is in some of the major cities, which we are fortunate about. But I will definitely bring that forward and also on the Lake County side, we'll approach the other hotels in the area as well. So thank you for that.
Still gonna lose money.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Patty.
On that same vein, we'll also follow up with Law and Order.
Oh, yes. And like I send out through the state, we're required to send out our health alert network messaging, and Law and Order is on our list. So they do get all of our information regarding monkeypox and the cleaning and all of that. So they do have access to that information as well. So. And let's see, the other thing, Len, that you had asked about was the West Nile. And so I did include kind of the symptoms and how it's diagnosed and treated. We have not had any human cases of West Nile yet in the state this year. We've only had 4 mosquito pools that have tested positive, and I did list the counties that those were in, Lewis and Clark County, Blaine County, Phillips, and Dawson. We usually see it more east of the divide. They did find it in 2 horses, one in Lewis and Clark County and one in Phillips County. It usually by the kind of end of summer, we occasionally will have mosquito pools that test positive on the west side. but not like it is on the east side of the divide. So we are, getting our messaging out again, with the positive mosquito pools in the area, just making sure that people are, wearing mosquito repellent or, repellent clothing when they're out in those areas, making sure that they, minimize standing water so that we don't have mosquitoes breeding in the area. And so that's a lot of our messaging that goes out with West Nile in the area, this time of year. So.
Tammy, I know we've had horses infected with it here on the
Mhm.
reservation in the past. One of the things that I was promoting, especially in communities where we have concentrations of people or schools, is that we have a lot of open ditches that run through our community. They're part of the irrigation system. And so I've been advocating that those ditches and communities be piped and buried. So we don't have mosquitoes coming off of those ditches.
Yeah.
Living in Ronan, I know that that's a case of a ditch that runs right behind the grade
Oh, yeah.
school, right along the entire west side of town, which is where the wind pushes all the mosquitoes into town. So I would hope that you might be an advocate for that, burying those ditches, piping them when possible. They buried part of the one in Ronan underneath the hospital, but almost nearly every community has a ditch like that. And they get stagnant at the end of the summer, and a lot of mosquitoes get
Lot of
produced on
mosquitoes.
those.
Yes.
I know Robert's back there. He knows the ditch I'm talking about. Anyway, that would be something that would help with that. And as we move forward in climate change and warming of the environment, these type of whether it's blue tongue or what, just there's tons of wildlife diseases I'm well aware of from the gnats and mosquitoes, and this is one of them. The increase in the probability of that is going to go increasingly greater as the time goes on. So I think we need to be well aware of, where these insects are coming from, how they may move new diseases. We got a bunch that are new ones that are going to be coming at us. So I would appreciate, the due diligence from you guys to make strong recommendations and preventative care, and, how can we get ahead of it? Simple things like that. We have money to bury pipes, bury ditches, so we need to do it. And I think that would be a strong movement forward for Polson, Ronan, St. Ignatius, maybe some of the other communities.
All right. And I think that is all that I have. Does anybody have any questions at all? Yeah. Yeah. And so, things
Well, they're
are
looking good. Thank you.
good. Yeah, things have slowed down a lot. And so, I don't know. I know you had asked, to do this weekly. I don't know that a lot is going to change from one week to the next. And I can send, oh, yes, allergy season. It's horrible.
Well, I think if you just gave us an update on how the new vaccine's being distributed,
sure.
a lot of people are very, they know it's there, they want it now. And so I just encourage you to expedite that and have that meeting Monday and plan that very well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
Thank
our
you.
pharmacies have the Pfizer vaccine. They're not carrying the Moderna vaccine in the tribal health pharmacies. So if people are needing the Moderna booster, then they can get that either in Ronan on Wednesdays or at our events. And like I said, we will be getting those planned out and get that out to everybody and get everybody their next vaccine. So thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. Patty, thank you. Okay, next we have, I guess, Greg. Ruth and Greg. Ruth. Oh, you're co-piloting. Well, okay. Oh, well, we can always take a quick break. You guys want a break? We'll take a 5-minute break. Five minutes or less. Okay, we'll come back to the session after our break. Ruth. Esquex.
Esquex. Mr. Chairman and Council, the agenda packet, page 3, begins with the request. I want to note too that there's been a revision to the resolution. So that actual increase is a bit more than that. Our first item in fiscal 19, the tribe received a small award from the Compact to do a tribal justice support project involving juvenile justice wellness initiatives. Unfortunately, that did not get completed. We have unspent dollars of about 45,000. I'm proposing that we approve the letter of request to Bureau of Justice Services. And it would request that we go ahead and spend that money as we had originally intended, principally to provide training within our prosecutors and other components of the justice system, still achieving those general objectives and kind of tying in as well with our drug and wellness court initiative that we're going to begin with tribal court. So the letter was vetted amongst Mike Wheeler from legal department and Maylin Smith prosecutors, Ken Claremont probation, and Brad Cliff of tribal court. They did not have any issues with the request as I proposed it. We propose to complete all this by the end of next fiscal year.
Go ahead, Carol.
Yeah, when they came in, well, let me back up. When Jim Taylor and Malin Smith came in, they brought in the new code, and in that code, there's a lot of reporting that needs to be done through juvenile probation. And I was wondering, you know, are they not qualified, but do they have the background to make sure that they're keeping the files of juveniles and individuals properly and making sure that there's reporting? And I think this kind of follows all in that line of the training and all of that's needed to make sure that our individuals who are in, you know, having addiction and law troubles, that they do get the proper training and help that they need. And so hopefully this will help that out. That's all I wanted to make a comment about. Thank you.
Sorry for scrolling. Yeah.
Any other comments about the letter? If not, I would entertain action. Motion by Carol to approve the letter. Second by Ellie to approve the letter to Tricia Tingle, Associate Director, the BIA Tribal Justice Support. Any other discussion? Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, show of hands. Unanimous.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the resolution that is on page 4, as I noted in a couple of minutes ago, has been updated to reflect an addition in the amount identified in Health and Human Services in the compacts, contracts, and grants increase column. So the actual increase is $2,000,009. So yeah, I had forwarded that yesterday to Jennifer, but she had already done your packets. So the updated resolution has been sent to her and Abby Dupuy. So the only change then will be this additional amount in this column of about 367,000, and then reflecting that total net increase of the 2.9 million for total adjusted or increased allocation of 296 million and just under 297 million.
Any questions for Ruth or Greg? Seeing none, I would
Forget it.
entertain action on the resolution approving modification 11. Motion by Ellie. Second by Bing to approve the resolution approving modification 11 to fiscal year 2022. Total budget allocations for general fund, dedicated trust, compacts, contracts, and grants, water compact, and settlement funds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, show of hands. Unanimous. Thank you for the good work.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Jen.
Daryl is up next. He has one for capital equipment. He has another one for capital equipment, but I let him know that there's no council Tuesday, so he might request that one as well today.
Well, all right. Well, if it's time sensitive, you might want to do it right now. Get it done.
Good morning.
Good morning, Daryl. Robert?
So the first request we have is for a flatbed for a new vehicle that we just purchased under the fuels program. It's federal funding. It came down through supplemental request through the fuels program through the region. So we have the money. We just need the approval through council. The vehicle that the flatbed is going to go on is a service vehicle for our heavy equipment operators. So what we're asking for is approval to purchase the flatbed.
Motion by Len to approve the capital equipment request. Second by Jimmy. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Let's see, Martin? Unanimous.
Okay, and then Big R will present. Robert will present the other capital equipment request.
Yeah, so we got another supplemental to purchase 2 UTVs. Well, let me back up. We got a supplemental to purchase a boat originally, and we kind of came to a group that figured that we'd need more UTVs than a boat because we don't get too many lake fires or river fires. So it was originally set up for a boat. We got a $50,000 to purchase a boat, and we want to change that. And we went back to the BIA and asked them to grant us permission to purchase UTVs instead of a boat. So we're just looking to get approval also to purchase these UTVs. Better use on the fire for us to get around instead of being in trucks that are 3/4 tons, beating up and down the road. So do you have anything to add to that?
No, like Bigar said, so Ron sent a letter to the region requesting approval to switch the funding. He's gotten that, so we're good on that end. So we just need council approval to purchase the UTVs.
Okay, sounds pretty straightforward. Go ahead, Ellie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd make the motion to approve their request to change the use of the funding to support the ATVs.
Motion by Ellie to approve Fire Division of Fire's request to purchase 2 UTVs in replacement of a boat from funding. Go ahead. Seconded by Jennifer. Any further discussion? Get a boat next year. If there's any water. Oh, go ahead, Martin.
Oh, I put it in the chat. I was just curious about the cost difference on electric, or if you guys have considered that.
I couldn't understand.
Yeah. Cost differential.
I think it's going to be about the same. So the boat was, we got enough money to purchase a boat for 50,000. The UTVs are roughly going to be both of them around 50,000. We're going to get a 2-seater and a 4-seater. So
I believe he was asking for the electric on the UTVs or whatever.
Oh, if there's electric
Yeah.
versus gasoline.
to be honest with you, I have yet to see a electric UTV or ATV. So, I mean, they might be out there. We're gonna go with the standard Can-Am.
Well, regardless, driving a UTV versus a 3/4 ton pickup is an improvement. But it's for gas mileage. So that would be an improvement as I would see it. But they do make electric motorcycles. ATVs, they make electric everything now. True. We'll probably see some next
Probably.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, the problem with that, of course, is charging those in a remote setting when you're on a fire.
Mhm.
That'll be the difficulty for that. So any further discussions? Seeing none, all those in favor, show of hands. Unanimous.
And
Thank you.
then one last thing. So Ron wanted me to bring up, he said he brought this up last Thursday, I think, to you guys. About the unified letter that's being sent out on the wildland firefighter pay. He said he was gonna send you a copy of that letter today, Tom. And that I think there is Colville, Spokane, Warm Springs, Yakima, and Nez Perce also have a copy of the letter that they're going to bring to their council for signatures. And once we get all the signatures pulled together, it'll be sent to Deb Holland. But Ron wanted me to just bring that up and let you know that he is moving forward with that.
Thank you, Daryl.
Yep.
That's a good idea. More voices, the stronger it'll be. So appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work. Okay, Michelle and Miranda, come on up. Esquex.
That's quick. Grisnum. I want to start off by apologizing. My request was a huge error, and what we're really here asking today is to change the higher ed policy and not the TEC policy. And so Patty did tell me that she spoke with you guys this morning, but I just wanted to put that out there that it's my mistake that I did the agenda, the request the way I did. Miranda's made the changes to the higher ed policy, sent it to Jen to be shared, and that's what's in front of you. So I'll let Miranda talk for a minute now.
Hello, council. So I don't know if you guys actually can see that in front of you or not. I am pushing it.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah.
Okay, I am very still challenged with technology, obviously. Good to be here with you guys today in person, council. It's good to see you all. So I'm just happy to be here. But so as Michelle said, the request came in for the TEC bylaws, but it actually is stemmed from the higher ed policy. So what happens with that and what's in the higher ed policy is when I'm denying students funding, basically they have the option to do an appeal. The appeal has been going to the tribal ed committee, TEC. But due to TEC not having a quorum, some of my students have been put on hold for a decision to be made. So that's why we initially were looking at the TEC bylaws was for the quorum. But this is all, like I said, stemming from, oh, is she doing it? Yeah. Is stemming from the higher ed. The policy handbook. So there's two parts in higher ed that students would have the option to do the appeal on. And I came to you guys last January of 2022 for the approval of this higher ed policy handbook for this current 22-23 year. And you'll see that on page, I don't know what page that is for you guys, but it's page 2 of my policy handbook that you guys should see. One of the options students have, which is the bulk of higher ed appeals, is their credits. So you'll see at the bottom, initially what it started with was the sentence that says students who have exceeded the maximum, they have that option to do the appeal with TEC. But in conversation, we are looking at, rather than going to TEC, having students go to Michelle, the tribal ed department head, whoever that may be. Right now it's Michelle. And then if there's a conflict of interest, like maybe it's a relative of Michelle's or something like that, then they would go to the executive director, Patty. So that's what we're looking at. So my students aren't put on hold waiting to see if they would be approved. And then I always have conditions that students have to have complete files. And I think you all know that I'm pretty strict with students on that. So that is one section of the policy. And then I know towards the academic consequences, that would be another option for appeals if a student is on suspension and then by policy, they aren't receiving funding for a full year, things like that. So that would be the other change where we'd make that policy change. So we're looking at approval to change the higher ed policy handbook for the 22-23 year. And then next year's will be consistent with that. I just rambled. I'm so sorry if there's any questions.
Just one question. I mean, I guess this goes to my lack of familiarity or what I do know on this type of a process elsewhere, not in higher ed. In an appeal decision-making authority, typically it's more than one person that does that. So I guess my only suggestion would be to not either or conflict interest. Maybe it would just be both of you. It would take two to review it. That would be the only thing I would say. It would be the executive and the department head. Rather, if you had a conflict of interest, it'd have to go to the executive. That would be the only thing I would suggest. That would be make it look a little bit more like a normal appeal panel. But that's just me. Easy correction though. I mean, we've got to avoid what your situation you're in. It has to be fixed. So, and what you're suggesting is great. Any other points or discussions or? Go ahead, Mike.
I definitely support doing this. It has been like pulling teeth trying to get people to attend the tribal ed committee. I do think that it's an important committee and that it has important work, and we got to do something to get it back active. But the students can't wait.
Any other comment? Sure. Motion by Carol to amend the policy handbook. Well, that would be it. Carol, do you want to do one person or two people? Deb listed as one, the conflict of interest that bumps up to the executive. Okay. For two, second by Ellie. So you'd have to make the addition that I suggested. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all is in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Taking care of business. So. Whisper, come on up.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I am here to discuss page 18 through 21. It's a collection permit from the US Geological Survey. And what they're proposing to do is a project at the Bison Range, which is a rock formation survey. So the previous, and I would like to acknowledge Grace Gibbs is on the Zoom. She's part of the research group. So if we have some questions, we can direct those toward her. But when the rock formations on the reservation were mapped back in the 30s, I believe, they were done so by extrapolating some rocks from some other local areas. These researchers are planning to come and do a survey to update those to current standards. When I initially contacted them, I said, are you drilling holes? Is that this kind of survey? They said, no, we're going to walk around. We're going to look at the hills. We're going to look at the rocks, and then we'll be able to reclassify the formations. Thank you, Jennifer. And so that is what I'm asking permission for today. They're planning to be on the Bison Range next week to walk around and look at rocks. And Grace, I don't know if you have any additions to what I said, if I categorized it correctly.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello. No, that was great. Yeah, and feel free to ask any questions if you have any.
Any questions from council?
There was also mention of the fault lines and saying that previously we might have been rated at being more heavily faulted, but there's new understanding that maybe we are less faulted for seismic activity. And so they're going to review that as well.
Go ahead, Ellie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would support this and make the motion for support, but it would be interesting if we could get a presentation on your findings after. I think they're both really interesting.
Motion by Ellie to approve the collection permit to update the geological map of at the Bison Range. Field studies at the Bison Range. Oh, pardon? Oh, second by Martin. Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All right, unanimous. Just gotta watch out for those rattlesnakes.
I was going to say that. We had one in front of the front door this week. Carrie
Temperature changes,
provided
they're
some-
looking for the heat on the rocks, so.
Yep.
Yep.
They got some snake tongs so they can move them away safely. So yes, Grace, there's rattlesnakes.
Right.
Yeah, I was thinking bison would be the concern, but I guess it's the smaller things to worry about.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Go ahead, Carol.
Yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge Whisper for her outstanding speech when we met with the Secretary of Interior. I'll tell you, you stepped right up there and said what needed to be said, but it was impressive what you had put together in such of a short time. And I just wanted to make sure that you know we appreciate that. And sometimes we don't have the full story behind us as council members, but you definitely hit it out of the park. And a lot of people mentioned it. She said she's well-spoken, and so I just appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Whisper. Carrie, come on up.
Good morning. Thanks for having me here today. Today we are presenting the 2022 to 2023 Yellowstone Bison Hunt regulations. The season opened on September 1st and goes through January 31st of next year. And so we have really the only change this year is that we reformatted it to kind of fit that standardized look that we've transitioned our other regulations to this year. And so we are hoping to field any questions on that and then request to approve this year's bison hunt regulations.
Go ahead, Len.
So do we have any vests or badges that acknowledges that we are CSKT hunters when we're out there? Is that something we can, if we don't, is that something we should provide so we know who's out on the landscape?
Yeah, I might defer to Dan. So Dan McClure with the wardens and Amanda Bordeaux were both on today too to answer some of those logistical questions on the hunt that takes place.
I know, Len, that 1 year we purchased a lime green vest and just gave those to all hunters at the orientations if they wanted one that was unique, that would be different from the hunter orange vests so that people could easily see them. They'd know that they would be CSKT hunters. And I would assume there's still some of those left up in the attic, but that's all we've ever done. As far as I know. Unless Amanda or Dan know. It's not a requirement in the regulations, but we strongly encourage in the orientation that people make themselves visible so they don't get shot at.
I don't see either of them responding, but I think there is a box of those up there and we can talk with Stephanie Gillen about that because I think that's what those vests were intended for.
This is Dan. I'm having a little issues with my computer. I hope you can see and hear me. So yeah, we do have some of those vests. We don't have a lot of them. We've been giving them to new hunters primarily. It is not a requirement for them to wear it. However, while we are there, especially in Beatty Gulch, we ask that they at least put them on while they're field dressing and things like that, just because of other shooters and other hunting parties in the area. But we do have some, and I don't know how many we have left.
Mr. Chair, this is John H.
Go ahead, John.
I think you'll recall, maybe the council will, when we did the MOA, it was a point of contention with the state for, at least for Beatty Gulch, that the tribes should all have hunter orange. In the end, that was not agreed to, but yeah, one of the things we said is we would encourage all hunters from CSKT who are hunting in Beatty Gulch to wear it, and there was the creation of the distinct color to show that the CSKT hunters were unique and would not be caught up in some of the things that had happened there. You could easily identify a CSKT hunter by the color of their vest. So Steph did a good job getting that done, and Dan in the shop can ID CSKT folks pretty easily when they're wearing them. So.
We did notice that there's no mention of the Beatty Gulch in our regulations, and I'm not sure if it got missed or if we're maybe not seeing it in the adaptation from our regular regulations, but if you would like us to make sure that it's in here, we can do that.
Yeah, you want to make sure you publish that and have it in your orientations, of course.
Yeah, again, Mr. Chair, this is John H. I don't know if the Beatty Gulch stuff has been part of the actual published regulations, but as part of the orientation, it's all factored in there and explained. And if you go on the CSKT Bison Hunt webpage, it's there, and the protocols, the MOA, and then the Beatty Gulch special hunt provisions are all in there as well. So it might be something we'd want to incorporate in the regs going forward, to the extent we're not going to require. We've always required orientation up until the COVID situation, so everybody was given all that information at the orientation. But maybe, with not making it mandatory anymore, then maybe we need to make that information more available in some way. Yeah, I want to think about that.
Yeah, the regulations identify Beatty Gulch as a unique management area that has its own special regulations and permit. So it's closed to hunting unless authorized through the special use permit and those regulations. So that's all you need to mention in the annual book, and I think it's in there. What should be.
Yeah, I think it's mentioned there, but I guess extending it out to the extent people want to know about how to do that, we always did that in the orientation. So if they're not doing the orientation anymore, then they may not. Most hunters are pretty experienced about it. Dan could probably walk you through that. He's got his hand up.
So we still in the path, when a hunter comes and picks up their permits, they get a file folder, and it has that sheet of paper in there to explain Beatty Gulch and its special hunt regulations. So, and that's a sign up only. So anyone that does hunt that has to sign up through our office and or report to the hunt site itself that morning by a certain time. So 7 a.m. on that particular morning. So the information is in there. It's just not in the regs. It never has been. It was always just an extra piece of paper with explanation and, of course, through the orientation. And this year we have more seasoned hunters, so we're not making them go through the orientation this year. In the past, what we've done is if we start to accumulate some violations, then we did orientations again for everybody. But since we're not changing any regulations or anything like that, we opted to let the seasoned hunters just come in and collect the information, and then any new hunters, we do provide a orientation date. I think we have 3 of them picked out, but I don't know what those dates are off the top of my head.
All right, any other questions? There's virtually no changes over the past 4 years in the hunt regulations. But it is a requirement, they're annual regulations and they need to be approved annually by the tribes. The uniqueness is, goes into another calendar year, this particular hunt season. So our other hunt permits are expire the end of December, like moose and other ones, but the bison tag goes through the entire season. This one does. So which would be the month of January. That's the only unique thing about it. Any other questions or discussion? Motion by Len to approve the 2022-23 Yellowstone bison hunt regulations. Second by Bing. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous? Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Whisper. And so I'll invite Shannon and Maureen up for this next section. So we look at page 30 on our packet today. Oh, I'm not controlling it. Sorry. So back in, I believe, March, we brought in Maureen and SKC Virgil brought in a proposal or request for approval to submit a grant proposal for a project on the Bison Range. And they have decided to was that not successful, or they've either decided to submit it to through a different grant. And so they're requesting another letter of support to be able to do the same kind of work, kind of on a scaled down version. And but it would be the same essential grant proposal from this spring.
Morning, council members. Sorry with that. Yeah, the initial application was for approximately $1 million and over 5 years. This is a pared down version. Dr. McCarthy saw that the grant application was getting fairly political in the exception portion of it, and decided that she probably wasn't going to get funded for it and wants to move her attention to a different application process. It'll pare down some of the field work, but in all, we'll still get the same amount of material out of it that we would have in the beginning. And I'll let Maureen kind of explain what the whole process will be.
Excellent. Thank you. Good morning, council. Very nice to be here. Yes, so the original proposal that we put in, we were actually partnered with the Intertribal Buffalo Council. That decision for that process is not final, but as Shannon mentioned, it recently has become exceedingly political. And so I have strong feelings from inside of USDA that we probably will not get the funding there. So we did have an opportunity to shift our research project to the research component of USDA. So it's still within USDA, it's just in a different part. We would be again partnered with Shannon and Peter at the Bison Range and with SKC. Virgil unfortunately couldn't join us today. He's in training. But I met with him yesterday and we were going over this. So again, this proposal would be focused on looking at essentially understanding the baseline of carbon cycling on the bison range, along with looking at vegetation conditions, particularly as it pertains to the invasives. In direct support of Shannon and Peter and the rest of the staff out there to understand what the scope and scale of the invasives there are, and then what the treatment is. And then also looking at the long-term climate projections for the area and understanding how the vegetation may respond to those long-term climate trends. So we would be partnered with SKC and involving several students, would also be partnered with the University of Montana and the Montana Climate Office, bringing the expertise from there. And I think we have a much better chance. This is a non-political part of USDA. So the proposal is due next Thursday, and I appreciate your patience with us as we put this on the agenda at the last minute. Thank you.
Questions from council?
Tom, may I add one thing?
Yeah.
We will be working with the National Indian Carbon Coalition this go around, which is a new partnership. And they are interested in working with the tribes to assess the potential of being able to acquire carbon credits for operating the bison range, which potentially could be a revenue source in the future. They are not getting any funding from this, but they will potentially bring us additional funding for students and for the economic analysis of how that process would go on. So if there are any questions about that, I can take those as well. Thanks.
Question? Go ahead, Ellie.
First, I guess I love that this is going to provide hands-on internship opportunities for students. That's really important. And with that, I would make the motion to approve the the request for signing the letter of support.
Motion by Ellie to approve the support letter for SKC's grant submission. Second by Jennifer. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, show of hands. Martin? Okay. 8-4-1 opposed. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then I did just want to update council on a quick letter of support that I gave to the Montana Fish, Wildlife and Parks, or signed on to a letter being sent to Montana Fish, Wildlife and Parks. So Heart of the Rockies Institute is working with FWP to put in for some grant funding for the America the Beautiful grant out there. And so what that could potentially do is secure 4 years of funding for our carnivore conflict program. That would potentially include some garbage cans and then a potential conflict person to respond, personnel to be able to respond to conflicts for those 4 years, get kind of a livestock carcass removal program going. And so I just signed on to a letter that said from Heart of the Rockies Institute to FWP, thanking them for submitting the application on their behalf. So if you have any questions, I can answer those too, but just wanted to let you know that I gave the programs, the wildlife program support on that, so.
Sounds great. Thank you, Carrie.
I was able to squeeze Scott in today, but can we squeeze Stephen in really quick before?
Real quick, Stephen, you with the fancy hat right there. I like that hat. That's quick.
Special. Had a good time this weekend, last weekend with the powwow at Welpnet, Washington. And I still got it. Of everything, movies, dancing. 83 years old and people are still looking at me. There's something wrong with them. But I've been feeling really good, you know. And I had a rough time this last winter. And now I'm just feel great, you know. Like myself again, mean and funny and whatever. So anyway, I went to Welpnet and danced. And I'm here to talk to the councilwoman, men, and about our school again. We got 52 children. And it's been really good, you know, moving it. Even when I went to Welpnet, there was the tribe from Welpnet and Usk, Washington. The kids are talking Indian. Hey, hi, squeak, Stephen. No, hi, squeak, you know. And that makes me feel good, you know. After 19 years at Kusum, we built that place up pretty good, you know. Started out with 3 and we lost two of them. People, teachers. And it's been really, really hard, you know, for us, you know, for me, especially for me, talking steady, talking Indian all the time. And when I had Pat Pierre, I had help anyway. He was in the same class with the adult students. Then after he passed away, first we used to help each other. He used to come in my class and he would talk for a while and just in Indian. Then he maybe over half an hour. Then he would say, "Who was Stephen? Your turn." Then I would take over. Then after he passed away, then it was kind of pretty tough, you know. Met more people like Stevie Arca. I've taught him how to talk Indian. He's come a long ways. Then I talked to him in Indian, him, Cheney Bell. The Cheney first time when we first started, he really wanted to talk Indian. I spent many hours with him talking Indian. And first time he told me, he said, I want to learn how. And you're the one. So I spend 2 hours a day with him just talking Indian. My gosh, he turned out pretty good. Have to spend a lot of time. Today, he still talks Indian, working in Seattle, doing good. That's what I heard, you know. Our language is pretty tough, you know. I went out to Butte, Montana, Anaconda for a movie. They asked me to go down there. And then I had to talk Crow. You know, even if they're our enemies, don't put that on a deal. It was hard, you know. I got two agents. I got one in Hollywood and I got one in Bozeman. And anyway, when I got there, my agent from Bozeman gave me my list. Only two words in Crow. And when I looked at it, then they brought a woman from Crow that's teaching Crow language down there. And she looked at my list and he said, it's all wrong. He said, you have to practice on what I tell you. And I had about two other bosses there. Mo, the tall guy that acting in Yellowstone.
You look thirsty, young man.
Am I talking too loud or what? Open it up for me, please. Open it up.
Can you open it?
No. I don't have the strength. I'm not fooling you. Thank you. So anyway, he sat here and the Crow woman was sitting here and they were both, you have to do this. Mo would say something, the Crow lady was trying to. But the cameras was all over me, of course, I sat there, bashful. And I had a good time. I got through with it, Now they want me to do another one, not Yellowstone, but a different one in Bozeman. But going back to in Kusum, we started out with 3. You heard this many times. We start out with 3. Then it started going, Then lately, excuse me, lately the councilmen start backing me up. Backing the school up. And Cheney's got one down there in Mission at the Longhouse. Then I go down to the Longhouse over 1 hour and I teach there. So I got 2 places. They want me to work at the college and I told them, no, I got 2 places already. So we've come a long ways, with our language. And you look at my record, I'm full-blood Ponderay. And seem like we're getting squeezed out, That picture of Ponderay chief wasn't even up there. And I talked, they almost put a Blackfeet picture up there for Ponderay, I remember that time. Oh, Derglo was here then, as councilman. We've come a long ways. Powwow schools, down Spokane, down Usk, Washington. And today I just wanted to talk about it, how important it is, to learn that language. And to build our school up in Kusum. Looks like a castle on the outside, but when you go inside, you could tell the difference, It's really Indian, pictures and everything up there. And when we get the basement done, I call it the basement. Nishut. That Pierre was asking me, what we'll call that? Nishut, it's down kind of in the ground. Nishut. And we're still waiting on that. They got the bathrooms ready to go. The dining room's not ready. And I just wanted to report on this. The cooks are having such a rough time. Last year, they had to cook different places to bring our food in there. And it's always late, It's not the cook's fault. And sometimes they don't want them over where they have the wakes and Arlie, you know. So we got to get that thing done. I don't know, it's been 2 years, 1 year. We told, what's his name? I forget his name. I'm so mad at him, I forget his name. But to me, it's important for the kids to eat right there and get ready for the other classes, you know. So anyway, I thought I'd bring the council members in there to come and look at our school when it's done, the whole thing. And they got the sidewalk in. Some of you people got to see it. The sidewalk was supposed to be close to the building. That's what we said. That they had 15 yards or whatever way out there. But we can't do nothing about it unless we want to build 2 sidewalks. And the people around there, they complain all the time. You know how it is, you know, those people that got the houses. They said, you're ruining our yard and all that, you know, because there was dirt all over the place. And we had, what's his name, come up and check it out where the boundary is. Then he checked it out. And he told me, he said, the whole land here belongs to the tribe, you know, it just doesn't belong to them. I don't know if that's true or not. But that's the way it goes, you know, there's always people complaining about something, you know. So anyway, I'm here to try to get a fence in. I talked to the chairman. And I wanted to talk to the councilman about the fence, you know. The fence is really important to us because it keeps people out, you know. I remember we had some wood there, and during the daytime, they come and got their wood from us, stealing wood. And we had cameras, you know. Just right there, they were throwing it over the fence, you know. You know, things like that. And our school, we pray all the time for it before we start, you know. You should come and see us what we do during the day before we start, before we have our classes, we sing songs, I do the prayer and all that, you know. A lot of things we do at the school. And I'm proud of those kids. They go and they graduate from 8th grade. And a couple of them, or 3 of them, come back and go to work there. It shows that it's important, you know. So to me, I want a fence in there. I'll push it until you guys say, yeah, we'll pay for it. But if you don't, I'll be here every week. I don't care if you get sick of me or I get sick of you guys. I want you guys to help us out, you know. You guys do a lot of help for us. I'm not saying you don't. And I remember Carol, she helped me out to get in the movies, you know. Yeah, I still remember that. And she helped me build that bridge. Marceline went up there and tore it up. Part of that, she brought her big, well, I don't know, camper. I don't know if it was her, but I got to blame somebody. Don't put her name down. And that board sticking up there, you know. Oh, yeah, I do a lot of complaints when I'm here. I know I got all morning, nobody back there, so I'll talk all morning, make sure you guys are here, so.
So, Stephen's come in before and mentioned the fence.
What?
You've come in before and mentioned the need of a fence. And he came in last week, and I think it was like 2 months ago, he came in with actually got bids on fencing for this fence. And, you know, it's a normal protocol for a school to have security fence around it. It's timely when you have the new sidewalk to put in a fence right along with that. But I talked to Lisa. It's not in her program. It's not in her work order. She doesn't have it in her element. So it would be something around $10,000 to $20,000, I'm guessing, for a chain link fence to be completed at the school. That'd be something that would be put in the work packet for next year if council approves it through the budget. So come next fiscal year, it could be a work item that could be financed for the school. So Lisa, I checked that day when you were here last week and she didn't have it in her program. She emailed me back and she didn't have it, Stephen. So it has to be put in there. It'd have to be a council action item. We'd work with Ruth in the budgeting for financing to see how we can squeeze it and finance it, and then go from there. But right now it hasn't received council action for approval. And so Stephen is saying he's coming in every week.
And I'll come next Tuesday, I guess, and you put me down. Put me down, the first one on the list on Tuesday. I'll be back
Yeah.
here. You know what I'm going to talk about. I'll
You can
talk
come next
about the
Tuesday.
fence until you get the fence in there. And I remember it was clear flat when we first started, and the Cheney Pete and his brothers put that fence in there, you know. And they complain about that, you know. Yeah, they used the basketball and everything. Then we put the little kids over here, a fence in there, and they cut the fence to come in, you know, and tore up our toys, our kids' toys, you know. And they're pretty tough up there, you know, gnarly, of course, everywhere. So, and up and down, I complain about that. There's a school there and cars are still, they never put a sign up there that school, 15 miles an hour or 5 miles an hour. And school buses are going out of there. Our school buses are those vans, you know. So at 3:30, they're going out of there. And before about 8:30, they're coming in to unload those kids. Then on the other side, I asked whoever it was, I think you guys got the, and they said we could have that for parking. And some of our teachers are parking across there, you know, so that's my complaint, and I got more. Don't cut me out now when I'm talking. I'm 83 years old, you know. I joke. You could say anything you want, you know. But I'm glad that I lived this far, you know. And I'll tell you a story, little story. My wife, when we first started, and I was cutting the wood, and they called me up right here in Ronan, said we need an Indian teacher. I said, okay. I said, I'll go to work there. And my wife looked at me, said, you won't last 5 minutes. And here I am, 19 years, still talking Indian. And I'm proud that I have that language, you know. So anyway, I'll be here next Tuesday asking for a fence. And I'll have the same stories again, maybe backwards, maybe upside down.
You know, Stephen, we'll start the process for putting it in the budget. So we have to work with Ruth.
Ruth is coming down to come speak with Stephen out here.
Yeah. And I'll share the folder you gave me on prices from whenever you got those a while ago. But that's a good start on an estimate.
That you mean you're saying we're gonna wait until Christmas before we put up your fence?
It could be longer than that.
Well,
Is it's not, even if we had the money today, would be a matter of getting the contractor to do it. So it may be a contracting issue.
the contractors are ready. They called me up. They contract, I guess, you guys. Soon as the councilmen say, okay, then they'll put the fence up, you know. I'm getting tired of them calling me, you know. So I said, you just call the councilman. No, it's got to come from the school, you know.
Well, that's good news if you have a contractor that's willing. If that's Farrier Fencing, that would be the only one we have under contract. So Ruthie's here. She can get the information from you.
But I'm glad you guys support, it's just support the language, you know. Not just our language, the Kootenai language, everybody.
Well, you know, it's a school. It's a school and we need to provide security for the students in that school. It's pure and simple. The second thing you brought up was school speed limit zone, which I didn't know was not posted for 15 mile an hour around that block. And we could talk to Scott's up next. We can bring it up to him about getting that posted to school zone. I didn't know that. And that's another safety consideration that should just be automatic. I don't know of any schools that don't have a chain link fence around them. So that's a basic need, Stephen. So thank you for coming in. We're gonna do our best to take care of it.
I decided to stay here for another.
So
I
she's
got to
back
go. There's somebody back there. I was going to decide to stay here another.
Ahoy.
But I'm glad you guys support the school. I'm glad that's your guys' building. It's a nice building. Looks like a castle on the outside, but when you go inside, it's different. A couple of you councilmen already come down and looked at it and checked it out, you know. Okay, I'm glad I come in here. Oh, wait, one more. Tony's position, I forgot about that. And it's getting close to October, you know. And somebody got to step in there or whatever you guys decide. And I told you to advertise it would be about the best, you know. And I talked to him who would be the best. That's confidential, I guess. So we got a person I think would be good for that. And whatever you guys want to do, you want to bring it out there and advertise it? Is it up to you or is it up to the elders? That's another question.
Clayton's gonna come down and meet with the elders. He's been off for a little bit, but he's gonna come down immediately, immediately this month, I believe, and talk to the elders about the process. Yeah.
Because it's coming up pretty soon, you know, and we just can't have anybody in there, you know, that can't talk Indian, I guess. I don't know, you know.
Yeah, right now it would be, process would be advertised. Any qualified applicant has to have a letter of recommendation or a recommendation from the elders that they meet the conditions to be the director. It could be multiple different people, but they have to have that recommendation from the elders group to be vetted and selected. So that's the process as it is right now.
Okay. And I'll see you guys next Tuesday. Good smiling around. And I thank you. And I got a new hat, you know,
And that hat is sharp, man.
Hollywood, you know.
I know. Yeah, guys with agents, you know?
Okay, Scott is up next.
Scott, yes.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the council. I come today for approval for some contract modification for DJ&A to do a grant application for us. They've already started on it under a contract they're already under the general services. But I'd like to separate this out from the general services into its own project-specific agreement so that we can track it better. So this grant is for a safe, it's through federal highways, and it's for safe streets and roads for all. And it's for a safety action plan. We haven't done one for since 2014-15. We haven't done a plan for safety for the highways, and that includes state, county, and tribal roads that are on our system through the BIA. What this application would do, I guess on page 37 of the packet is where the DJ&A's presentation starts, but I didn't think I needed them today for this, but we're applying for, there's two types of grants that are accepted for this Safe Streets for All, Safe Streets and Roads for All. And this one is for the action plan grant. And applications are actually due next week, next Thursday, and we're pretty much done with it. I'm reviewing the draft from DJ&A right now. But the grant request is expected to be between $300,000 and $400,000 to assess and determine where we can spend our money the best for safety for highways and roads. Right now shows there's a 20%, I mean a 20% match. So at $60,000 to $80,000 is about where we'd be. And I think my program could absorb that as the tribal transportation program, as long as they can accept funds from other, sometimes there's limitations on where the funds can come from, but I have no doubt that we can support the match. After the action plan is approved and we get the funding for this, we have up to 18 months to implement it. So we also have a draft letter of support to come from the council. So if somebody could read this and give approval for support for this grant application funding, that would be great.
Thank you, Scott. Go ahead, Len.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council, and thank you for Scott. Scott, I want to inform you and suggest of a potential project here. We were just informed that we need school speed limit signs put up at Nakusum School in Arlee.
Yeah, that would definitely be something we can get covered and looked at. But in the meantime, I think for this grant application,
well, I was just suggesting.
I think that's something more pressing than that. So I think I can get those signs put up pretty quickly.
Okay, I was just going to suggest we can include that with as a project with this potential grant. But if you can get that completed under your existing budget, that would be great. But
Yeah, I
right
think-
now, I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve the letter of support. Is that, do we need two actions?
Yeah, two actions. One would be for the letter of support, one would be for the contract modification to add this as a separate project-specific agreement to the contract with DJ&A 16-184.
We'll start with the letter of support. I'll make the motion to approve the letter of support.
Motion by Len to approve the letter of support for the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant. Any further discussion or motion? Is there a second? Second by Jennifer. Any further discussion? See none, all those in favor, show of hands. Martin, okay, unanimous. Go ahead, Ellie.
I guess just on the second bullet where it says also the roads in the reservation, I feel like it's on the reservation, but that's the only thing in the letter I saw.
Okay. Okay, now we would need approval of the contract modification number 15 to PSA number 22. Motion by Len to approve the contract modification number 15 to PSA number 22, second by Ellie. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, show of hands. Unanimous. Okay, Scott, so if you could get those speed limit signs up at the CUSM as quick as possible, that would be appreciated. Whatever process you need to do, pretty easy fix. So I think the students, they got 52 students down there and they're starting up. So I didn't know they didn't have speed limit signs around there, but they did. They must have gotten stolen or, yeah.
I've had reports of a lot of stop signs being down at the college also, that they get knocked over and stolen and damaged. So I'm in the process of getting those fixed as well.
Okay, thank you, Scott. I think we got you covered.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Katie Jones and Shane Morjo.
Good morning, council.
Morning, Katie.
So today before we have is the Big Medicine, a draft of the political request to get Big Medicine back from the Montana Historical Society. And Shane did a
Katie,
great.
I was gonna see do we want to see about going into executive with council?
Oh, yes, yes. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah, if we could go into executive session, that would be great.
Okay, legal team is requesting executive